Welcome to the first Apostolic Christian Counseling and Family Services podcast. This conversation is designed to help the hurting, nurture hope, and encourage growth. And we've chosen a topic that help, hope, and growth is much wanted. It is on cell phone use. And today we're going to specifically talk to parents who are trying to build a foundation for cell phone use in their house and among their children. So I'm glad to have a couple participants. Craig Stickling's with me, Brian Sutter's with me, and we're going to share on the topic of cell phone use. My name is Matt Kaufmann, and welcome. Brian, I'd like to turn to you first with the question, what should parents think about when considering the topic of their child getting a cell phone?
First of all, I think I just really encourage parents to really consider why. Why are they getting a cell phone? What is the purpose? And making sure that they have a reason. I think a lot of times parents can feel drug into the topic of getting their kids a cell phone. So for them just to be able to know that it's okay and good to step back and say, okay, why am I doing this? What's my goal? What do I want to do with it? What's my purpose?
I think you're exactly right, Brian. I know for myself, I feel like there's a hand on my back pushing me towards cell phone use. And my kids, I know it's inevitable. They're going to need one, whether I like it or not. And I think parents as a whole are feeling that way. And I wonder how many are giving the cell phone in good conscience. Is it against their will, even if truth be told? And so this conversation is right on key to help us wade through those waters.
Absolutely. It is. And that's where you just want to acknowledge that. You feel that pull, you feel that push, and say, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to attack this? And how do I use this as an opportunity to connect with my child? How do I use this as an opportunity to teach them and use it as something to bring growth rather than division and kind of separating mom and dad from kids and feeling like you're in foreign land with them?
Proverbs reminds us from that lens of to train up our child in the way that they should go. And we look at that word train, and that's an active word, and it engages mom and dads with their kids. And to be able to use this concept, this piece here, technology, a cell phone, it's just a specific piece, but we can use it as mom and dads to teach our kids so many things and so many lessons. And I think the foundation piece in this to remember is that this is mom and dads. This is a great opportunity for us to engage in our kids about something that's very important to them, very relevant.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's interesting about what you just mentioned there, Craig, is that if we can start early enough to think about this concept, talk with our kids about this concept, it really puts the parents in the driver's seat. Instead of where I think a lot of parents feel like the kids are in the driver's seat, if we are, have a plan, we're intentional and purposeful, it gives parents the opportunity to sit down and say, okay, what are the rules? What are we going to do with this? And how do we use this as an opportunity to bring our kids to us and something they're excited about, but we get to set the parameters and use it as a teaching thing.
So let me ask you, how would you answer the question then to the parent that would say, I can't talk to my kid about a cell phone because then that means I have to go buy them one if I talk to them about it?
Absolutely. If you bring it up, it's going to feel like they're going to get excited. They're going to say, okay, well, when can I have it? That's what they're going to always come back to. When. But again, you're in charge. You get to decide that, and you get to look at their maturity level. Are they ready for it? And have that discussion far before they're actually going to step into that boat with them. And, if all else fails, you always call Craig Stickling, and he'll get you out of the mess you're in.
Well, I think we have a lot of other technology in our homes, or our kids usually have things, and how they handle those things is sometimes a good gauge for mom and dads to check out their responsibility level, or to drive back the conversation with our kids about, as we get older, our responsibility level, we have to take care of things, and to be able to use that conversation to say, well, someday you might have your own laptop, or you might have your own cell phone or your own car, and as we have that conversation, to be helping our kids look at when we have something, it's wise to know how to take care of that and to be able to have that conversation with them, even in cell phone language.
Yeah. I think the concept that comes to mind there, too, in Scripture is just this idea that if you're faithful in small things, then you'll be given more. And I think that concept, that principle applies here, is if they're not being faithful in chores, then are they really mature enough to be able to manage a cell phone? If they're not able to limit how much time they're playing a game on the computer and so on and so forth, are they really going to be able to manage a cell phone in a way that is going to, follow godly biblical principles? Probably not. And that's a great piece to bring into that discussion point with them and say, hey, if you want to move towards getting a cell phone, you're going to have to show me responsibility and faithfulness and these smaller things before we're going to move in that direction.
So I can see right now, you've provided some strong points for cell phone usage that I have maybe not considered as a parent that, I could use it for that, for teaching God's Word, for teaching good stewardship. So what do you think the fundamental reason that a student or a child wants a cell phone, and how does that differ from maybe the reasons a parent wants their child to have a cell phone?
Well, I think in general, if you boil it right down, parents generally think of getting the cell phone as a way to have safety. Okay, that'll give me some security and feel like, Johnny or Sally will be able to call me if they need something. They'll be able to let me know where they're at. And so from a parent's perspective, they're looking at it as safety and helps give them some security about where their child is. I think children generally look at it as freedom, and that's what they want it for, and that's what they feel like they're getting. But I think you're right, Matt. Those are two very different streams, and it's very important and good to be aware of both sides of that.
I think that you mentioned about freedom and especially the opportunity to connect with others. And boy, you just see working in a school, how many kids use their phones as a way to communicate and to connect with other kids. And so I think that's a strong piece in that, and to be aware of that as mom and dad. Some kids might use it differently, more or less in that nature, but to be aware that that's a huge area that we can be setting the foundations and skills for our kids as they understand how this piece of technology allows them to connect with others.
So as I kind of debrief what you guys have been saying here, a child thinking freedom, parents thinking some sort of certainty or security and knowing where my kid is at in communication. But there's a middle stream here going that parents can monopolize on the spiritual guidance of our children with a cell phone. Because relationship is born in God, is it not? He is one with himself, and so we are bent towards relationship. We are bent towards communication. Why? Because God speaks. And so we have now our latest device in this world to do both of those things. And so there is much occasion for a parent to speak God and speak and direct our children in the way of the Word with this device.
Absolutely. I think even if I look back to my growing up, I remember, Dad being in the vehicle with me and my friends and him hearing our discussion, and then afterwards him coaching me on saying, okay, that was a good thing to say there, or I appreciate what you said here, or you might want to think about, this biblical principle, and how that fits into that discussion and follow that teaching. And parents feel like that's lost with the cell phone. But, if we can take that and say, okay, how do we use that same sort of teaching, step into that and use it in the cell phone, hopefully still in the vehicle as well, but also in the cell phone and reviewing what's been said, or how, sitting in the same room with them when they're on the phone with grandma, and then afterwards downloading that conversation and talking about biblical principles and communication, relationship, that is central to Scripture.
Okay, we can see now that there's benefit in the cell phone. And we've alluded to some of these things, but I would like you two to speak a little bit further on how do I know if my child is ready? We all have that age in our head, and certainly the kids know when their friends are having it, and sometimes that pressure comes from the outside in. So I feel like the conversation here today is really putting the ownership back on the parent and the burden of responsibility on the parent. So help us drive this thing. What should I be looking for in my children? When should I say, I think now is a good time to do that?
So responsibility is a big one. I think also, do they have any discipline, self-discipline? Are they able to do the chores when they're supposed to? Are they able to go to bed when they're supposed to? Are they willing to be obedient to mom and dad? And do they have some ability to put some self-restraints on themselves and follow the teaching, the guidelines, the boundaries that have been in place for mom and dad? I think that's a starting place. If they're not able to do those sort of things, then, jumping them into the deep end with a cell phone is probably not wise.
Really, to have this conversation early is probably better in terms of, sweetheart, I know you want to have a cell phone in a couple of years, and I know your friends are having cell phones, and these are a few of the things that I'm looking for, right? To be upfront about that, rather than wait and then all of a sudden say no because, and allow them to grow into that.
Definitely.
Is that fair?
I would say so. I mean, I think in that sense, probably the kids are going to be coming to you that early anyways. They're going to be, the conversation probably starts in middle school, where they may be, their friends are starting to get cell phones and they're wondering, okay, why don't I have a cell phone? And you sit down and you start having that discussion. You start talking with them about the things that you'd like to see them do to demonstrate that they're ready. And depending on their maturity level, depending on the need for the cell phone, those sort of things would definitely go into that discussion of when.
I think another benchmark to be looking at is, since young kids use cell phones as a social connection, to kind of step back and look and see, where are they at socially? How are they able to interact with kids? How are they able to solve, if they have a conflict with a kid or a struggle with a kid, are they able to talk to you about it? Do they have good conflict resolution skills and that they're able to identify when there's an issue with a kid? And then how can they talk to the kid, or are they able to come to you for advice? And being able to use that understanding of where your child is at as far as how they relate to others, because they will use their cell phone to connect with other kids. And we sometimes see a lot of struggles that kids have because they don't have good social skills, and they use the cell phone to try to get people's attention. And that's usually when things start to go south in a hurry.
I think another thing, too, with that is just to remember, too, that the parents don't have to think about getting a cell phone for the child to start with. I mean, you can have a family phone that could be used for times when the child needs to be able to call you after practice or call you after school or tell you about their evening at their friend's house, so on and so forth. And again, that's just another kind of step, a progression of thinking about slowly wading into this water, not getting too deep too quickly, and making sure that they can demonstrate for you that they're able to manage that.
And perhaps, are we ready to manage it as well? Are we having those conversations? Certainly the cell phone is going to raise some sticky conversations, am I right? Between parent and children. I mean, if we're really going to take the initiative and be intentional about it, by nature of the device, it is going to raise uncomfortable conversations. And are we having those conversations, and were we plowing the ground to get ready for those conversations?
The nature of our heart does not like to put limits right to begin with. The nature of our heart is, I want it all right now. And, definitely in that mindset of giving an adolescent this piece of technology, they're going to want it all right now. And that's a great conversation of how to help our kids look at the limits that go with that, and the wisdom and the guidance in that as well.
Should I be looking at how they're using technology already available to them? I mean, most have a computer and there's games and things on that, or a handheld device that they're playing games on. Does that filter into my rubric of when it's time for a child?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great marker that helps you see where they're at and if they're ready to move into more of a personal device like a cell phone. And so I think you're exactly right. Looking at those things, recognizing how they're doing with those things, and showing some maturity there, that's a huge piece of being able to evaluate if they're ready.
Well, I can't help but take self-reflection upon my own cell phone use as we talk about appropriate cell phone use of my children, and are they ready for it? And I'll be the first to confess, I use it in very inappropriate times. I have been known to text and use my cell phone while I play ping pong with my son, or in between while the kids are getting ready for bed. I'm supposed to be in their room, and in fact, I'm sitting on their bed, right, putting them to bed, and I'm firing off a text. What image does that share? What monster am I creating as an adult parent cell phone user that I'm going to be sending mixed messages? Speak to that.
Well, I think it's huge for parents to be able to be aware of how they use their cell phone, and recognizing if they can't put limits on themselves and demonstrate and model social behaviors, social interaction, and just appropriate limits to their cell phone. It's silly, it's foolish to think that they're going to be able to teach their kids in that direction. I think often of, Alice and I had this conversation, our kids go to bed in the evenings, a lot of times we can both be on the cell phone after that. I feel like she's on it too much. She feels like I'm on it too much. And I'm like, I'm not on it that much. And she's like, so we are not even aware of how much we're on it. And we have to be aware of that and be able to put some limits on ourselves as we think about this topic.
Certainly, our children are watching us.
Yes.
And so they know already. So for us to tell them, well, no, that's not what we do it. And if we're not even doing the same thing, so they've already been watching us and how we use our technology as well.
And I think that self-awareness is so true. I mean, if you ask me how important is the cell phone to me, it's just a tool. I mean, it's just a device, and I just use it. But never mind, let me run back and go get it, even though I'm 20 minutes down the road. I forgot my cell phone, and everything comes to a screeching halt. What we say and what we do are two different things. And right now, our children are building that concept of what is cell phone.
Yeah.
And I think that comes into picture here. What is cell phone that is a part of this foundational concept and discussion?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I've seen even from some student lens that you ask, what is cell phone? And it's very interesting. In this culture, cell phones have become an extension of the person. They become a personality and extension of the child. And it's almost like the cell phone becomes another way of advertising or promoting who I am as a child. And I think one of the lenses to look through for as a child mature enough is there's going to be some of that natural desire to do that, but do they have to get swept up in that? And can they have good conversation, and can they understand that piece that I don't have to have it all the time?
And Craig, I think that's an excellent point to conclude upon here today, because in subsequent podcasts, we're going to talk about some of the things that need to be taught in addition to the cell phone. As we look at mistakes and safeguards, certainly there are issues that we need to be thinking through, and we're going to follow that up. But for today, thanks, guys, for sharing your thoughts. I think I've certainly benefited from it. It's been help, and it's given hope and growth for me. Thank you, and feel free, if you're interested and want to go to acecounseling.org and click on the Technology tab, you will find more resources and help when it comes to cell phone use.